Wow. Welcome to another day. Yeah, we were doing some upgrades on our stereo system and boy, they worked out real nice. Just some wiring upgrades basically. Just when I put it together the last time, and this came in the middle of the boat, one of the amps did, and it was just, yeah, get it together, get it together. There wasn't any mistakes, but I wasn't really happy about the outcome, the way it went together on the back side, the wiring side. And I even have a few issues with the way it is right now, but upgrade, that's nice. And in my couple days off after our upholstery nightmare of weeks and weeks, I put the balsa on the back of my dartboard. Yeah, I used to have this like cork squares and they were all peeling and they just were just so ugly. So it looks good and it'll take a dart, which is perfect. And this also works as a great sound deadener if you're into the audiophile kind of stuff. That thing, you can basically use the wings one way or another, but it's an audiophile thing as a sound deadener or wall treatment, whatever you want to call it. But enough of this stuff. We're off to the garage. Yes, we are in our messy garage today. And of course, we have to do some cleaning up before we can do anything else. All the remnants of the upholstery job has once again made its appearances out here. We had, brought out a majority of stuff and got it all packed up away up in the top rafters up here, but that was the final cushions. And then of course we did our project downstairs on our dartboard, and that's what's left over of the balsa. Yeah, we got a few things laying around. Got some bird food over there. Once again, the garage becomes the dumping ground of everything we want out of sight, but maybe not out of mind. So I have some cleaning to do, and then hopefully we'll be able to bring one of these seats out, and in this box here there's a bunch of pieces to make them seats. So we'll be back. Well, here it is. Something that doesn't seem to exist on planet Earth today is a zinc fin for the steering tab on a Volvo 270 without exhaust going through it. It actually has ports for the exhaust, but it's not designed to have exhaust go through it. Anyway, around it, it doesn't exist today. So I'm not really sure what to do besides get out of the cold, roll back into the garage, and look what I got. And what I have is a piece of trash, but a whole assortment of zincs, steering fins. I think one of them, two of them may be aluminum, who knows. But the whole thing about it is none of them have a 4 1/4 inch base like the one I just was looking at on my outdrive. The closest one has a 4-inch base is this bad boy here, which I believe comes off of a Yamaha outboard. Not really sure, but I've looked at 10,000 of them, and it actually has a 4-inch base. Mine needs to be 4 1/4, which is not available. So I'm really not sure what I'm going to do about a zinc fin at the moment, because the 4 fits in that slot. You would think a 1/4 inch would make a big difference, but it'll make it do this, and you don't want that behind your prop driving your outdrive all over the place. So we're still on the hunt for those. The scary part about this whole thing for me is I've been off and on looking for these zincs for years. I mean, really, I really have. When I originally got the drive, it kind of looked like this. Went over here and it had a little bit of pocking in it and stuff like that. And being that I couldn't find it, I filled in all the pock marks with JB Weld and painted it. I didn't want it to corrode any longer because I'd rather have the drive corrode because they're easier to find. In the process, we did get our garage all nice and cleaned up. I know it don't look it, but believe it or not, I couldn't even see my bench when I came out here. And now I can see parts of it at least. And the whole goal is to get to these guys. These are our universal seat mounts. It's kind of like the originals were, because they kind of stood up on little platforms like these are. So I need to get these guys out of the boxes here and try to figure them out, because the instructions are basically 5 steps. And I've never found anything like this to be as simple as 5 steps. But we'll see. Well, it wouldn't be universal if it didn't require some modifications. And our kit will require at least 4 modifications on the length of these runners here. They are too long, to say the least. And on the back side also. And those metal things sticking out there, besides being ugly, would be highly dangerous. So they're going to have to be cut off. It's a little late to be doing that right now, but at least I got them figured out and laid out. And it is a nice universal kit. It has a multitude of ways of assembling it. I mean, you can put the things up, you can put them down, you can put spacers in, you don't have to use spacers, but you do have to make other modifications. But one of the Achilles heels of this whole freaking thing is they have lock nuts. And I'm not talking about the ones with the nylon ends. I'm talking about just regular nuts that when they go on, they start getting tight. And they get real tight. And they almost kind of cross thread. And it's not a kind of set that you're going to want to put on and take off and put on and take off. So I've got to get everything perfect before I assemble it, because once it's assembled, I really don't want to take it apart again. But I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to get some marks put on this thing, get it ready for tomorrow, and we'll have it ready to do some slashing and painting and all that good stuff. And until then, we'll see you tomorrow. Hey folks, welcome to another day. We're back at it again. Seems like it's probably taking an absorbent amount of time, but in reality, you know, I want this done right. I want everything to be universal, meaning that if like one seat wanted to be transferred to the other stand, it could easily be done. And what I'm doing here now is I'm trying to get all the bolt holes that will go through the seat here into this bracket. I want them all to be universal. Again, it's just kind of like, I don't know, I want it to look factory, so to speak. And the easy way to do that is just take this little compass and run it over their factory cuts already and put a mark exactly where I want my holes, and they all are going to be exactly. Now the pieces from front to back, they hang over a little further on the front than they do the back. I guess it's because of this extra, you know, build out here for, of course, your legs fall off and the seat's rounded around the backside there. So the bracket actually is longer in the back, but they're both going to be both seats will be identical. At least that's the plan. Now I have to go outside and brave the cold and cut all this stuff, and then we'll have to paint it. And I'm also still debating, because these brackets go on and they use these little spacers here to keep it up off of this slider part, so this piece here mechanism will move because it's taller than this piece. And if not, the seat would sit flat on it and then these pieces would be jammed in place. I'm debating on either changing these out to where I can get some kind of lean back. I know the boat already has, the decking itself will lean back, especially when the boat's in the water with a motor in the back of it. It'll cause it to actually sit back, and of course it rides, hopefully it rides like this up on a plane as opposed to plowing through the water. But I really do like, in my boat, they have really nice leaning seats. And I'm debating on how to get that lean put into this bracket. I'm not sure if I want to cut off the legs and reattach the mounting points, or if I just want to try to change the spacers they use. But that's something down the road. I have to get outside and cut this stuff because it's not 12 degrees below zero today, so we're going to take advantage of it and get this done. We got everything cut, drilled, ground, sanded, and all the holes were reamed. Now they've been painted and they're sitting on our heater. That's the second coat. Probably just going to leave them there. Next thing is over here doing some mock-ups of the whole seat. And I kept trying to figure out why every time I added more spacers to the front, I wasn't getting the lean back that I really kind of expected. And I've been kind of bound up in this little area right here because, as you can see, we're quietly packed in right now. And as I kept looking at this whole deal, it just kind of dawned on me. It was like, why would they make just straight seats? I mean, even car seats like this. And I looked at it, and I looked at it, and I looked at it, and I finally got out my tape measure over here, and I did some measurements on a nice flat surface, which apparently it's not on right now. But this side is 3/8 of an inch higher than this side. So when I put my little spacers in over here, then it starts making real drastic differences, because that's about a 3/8 of an inch. You add it to this 3/8 of an inch, and you're up to 3/4. By the time everything's squished down, that makes a big difference. And height wise, I mean, that's like going to be like this much from that side. So it was just a dumbass thing. I mean, it was just, I should have looked at it and should have realized it from the start. Why would it be that way? And it wasn't. But it's rectified now. Now that I've fooled with it for like a day and a half off and on. Because as I said, I think my original plan, I really was trying to avoid cutting this, because my first thought in mind was to actually just take off about an inch off the backside here and just drop it, and then we'll have to worry about the consequences after. But the consequences after for me are that I'd have to put it back together with a stick welder, and I was really afraid of burn through or just screwing it up. And long story short, all that's gone away right then after getting out the tape measure, so that was a big plus. And right now I'm going to get out this can of plastic dip. As you can see, it's for like the stuff that goes on the ends of your pliers and things like that. And I'm going to go ahead and dip each one of these ends where they meet the deck at in the plastic dip. I know it sounds a little weird, but I did that to my boat, and I've never had an issue with rust coming out from underneath of the seat. Now this is a powder coated frame, it's not a stainless steel. Even in a freshwater environment, long term, where it mounts to the deck at, water will get up underneath of that powder coat and it'll rust. Guaranteed. You dip it in plastic dip, one, it softens all these edges. Two, it's not actually powder coat making contact with the deck, it's the rubber. Three, ropes and such being drug along the sides of them doesn't hurt them, or doesn't hurt them nearly as much, when you're mopping and things like that. It's a win-win, and as I said, I have never had any rust come out from underneath of my seats, and that's all I did, was just the factory powder coating was on the frames. As I said, I think they came out of a Escalade or something like that, and I just dipped the ends in plastic coat, or plastic dip, I guess it's called, and it can be found on, no book face. Don't know. I got my feet dipped. I think my Plasti Dip is a little thick, maybe for a multitude of reasons. It may be an old can, maybe just a little chilly out here. It's probably in the mid 60s, maybe a little chillier since I had the door open for a little while, but it went on a little thick, so it required a little brushing to assist its flowing, and I made a big effing mess doing that. And now I have to take my shoes off because I've already treaded it a couple times, and I'm not going to walk it in the house. So I'm pretty much done, especially being that I have a 4-hour wait before I should use it in any capacity. And, it's, I don't know, 10, 12 hours, they say, before you actually use it, as regular use. So I think I'll just leave these till tomorrow and let them sit over there and bake up also. We'll just do a great big assembly day. We'll see you then. And we're back! Just like that. It's another day. And welcome. We're going to continue on with our seats. Our Plasti Dip has dried up. It's all nice and hard now. So there's no reason not to continue on, except for one minor issue. We have to clean up this mess first. So we won't bore you with it. We'll just do this. There we go. That's better. And I like this version you all are watching than the version I actually just did. But we did get everything cleaned up. Put some of my rug down for a little while here. Usually it's rolled up in the corner while we're rolling motors around because it makes it very difficult to do that. But we don't want to scratch the rubber on the concrete. It'll be fine on the carpet, I'm telling you. This stuff's pretty durable. But on the concrete, that's a little excessive. We got all our parts out. Well, I should say all our modified parts. I mean, they've been cut and painted. Those are dipped in the rubber. We've got bolts that have been cut off. We've got an assortment of washers that are going to be added for rigidity and strength and spacing. Yeah, we got a whole rigmarole of stuff going on here. But it's all here. Fingers are crossed it's all ready. I think it's time I put something together. Alright, we have one seat installed. Going to get the second one. Now I just had to come out here and brave the cold a little bit. After getting it all put together, I'm a little concerned about the angles of the seats. They have a real nice lean back. The only problem is it brings your knees up really pretty tall. So I may actually pull some of the spacer out of the front. which makes me glad I came out here and did this, because if it was all put together, I probably would have skipped over it and left it like it was. Honestly, I think it probably needs to be taken down about 3/8 of an inch, which means that spacer. It just means some more modifications to a few more bolts, but that's what we're going to do. As I said, we've got plenty of time. There's no reason to just do it to get it done. You can actually do it and play with it for a minute or two, and then go back and look at it and then say, no, we don't like that, and then fix it. And that's what we're going to do. So let me get this thing out of here and back into the garage, and we will be back in a second. Man, we made it right to the very end and then got stopped. It's not that big of a deal though. I got these carriage bolts out of the seats. They were originally still stuck in them, and I thought, you know, they went through the whole seat pretty much rotting out, and yet they still look like this. I'm going to reuse them, except for the fact that I don't have a single nut in my garage that'll fit them. I don't know. It's just weird. I mean, I tried multiple ones too. I mean, this one's a little mangled on the end, I was just noticing, but I tried multiple ones. I couldn't get a single nut in my garage to fit on these. But that would give me the opportunity to replace them with some nice galvanized. So, but I don't have those in stock, and I'll have to pick them up tomorrow, where we'll have to pick up this project at. We'll see you. Welcome to another day. The wind is howling outside right now, so lucky enough we're inside. And in my travels with the Ace Hardware there, got bolts to put the seats to the brackets, or the brackets to the seats, or we're going to make them all one big unit right now with these guys right here, which are about the same size as the last ones, which seemed to work out just fine when I was doing some test fitting. And they're galvanized, and we've got some nice washers and some lock washers and all that good stuff to go along with it. Now I just got to get it installed. Got them all wrapped up, brought them downstairs for their own safety and for my safety, because if I rip one at this point, I'll probably do something unmentionable on YouTube. But I did have a little issue of when I put the brackets on the bottom, because of the vinyl and everything that's on the bottom of them, they're a little uneven, in which case the little tabs that hold the legs on wanted to bend in a little bit. And when they did, they actually kind of jammed up the sliders. So the resolution for that is just to put in some really big washers in between the frame and the seat. And that kind of stiffened things up, because it was more sitting on the washers than it was on the uneven vinyl. And now they're perfect. They're just ready for install. And if something happens and they don't get installed, they'd probably make some really cool gaming seats right here in front of my TV. So, and that's always an option, but we're going to hold off on that for now and just leave them nice and safely over here in a corner. And we're going to go back out to the garage. And with the seats safely tucked away downstairs, thought, what the hell, we got out some tools and pulled the plastic off the motor, because we've got a few things in since we've let it rest. We got a new starter right here. You got a carburetor plate for the throttle linkage and all that good stuff. Sadly, they don't get installed right now because they'd have to come off anyway, but I am going to fit them up anyway. Got a couple fittings for my fuel pump so I can actually get my fuel lines going in the proper directions they need to go. Special order. It took about 3 weeks to get them, so we had plenty of time. I decided after looking at this thing over and over again that I'm going to go ahead now and shorten my alternator bracket, so that needs to be done. And also these hoses, which, God, they kill me. I know, this is the extended version of the water pump to the thermostat housing hose. It's a bit short. And I had this end already tightened down. I was just, I'm fooling around with this whole stuff, so I just took it off to get out of the way. But when I had it tightened down and I stretched it as far as I could, that's about as close as I could get to it. Right here. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece of radiator hose that I have and a piece of PVC, and I'm going to join this one to this one, like so. And I'll have a super long water pump to thermostat housing hose. I don't know how I got lucky with my boat. I bought a huge box of like leftover hoses from like I don't know, a garage or something that shut down off of eBay, and it was only like 50 bucks, but it came like a huge assortment of these hoses. And I do remember the one I got out of there from my boat had some shape like this, but it was much longer. It was made for like a diesel truck or something like that. And even if I had the numbers off of it, which there is none, I've already looked, even if I did have the numbers off of it, the hose is probably like a $300 hose for a diesel truck, so I'm probably not going to go that route anyway. And this is what I did on the Beesmeyer, because the Beesmeyer has kind of the same setup. So thermostat housing is a little bit different, but it's got that long stretch because of the air gap intake and these fresh water, raw water, whatever you want to call them. Thermostat housings, they tend to sit up higher than the MerCruiser thermostat housings. And they don't look stupidly out of place or anything like that when everything's installed, but the one thing it does is actually separates or extends the distance between the water pump and the actual thermostat housing. So it's an easy fix. As I said, the only thing you'll be able to see is a couple hose clamps. I'm not going to actually have that PVC exposed. I'm going to slide it inside of both rubber heater hoses and then make them butt right up to each other where you only see two hose clamps, and I'll try to make sure they're on the inside and all that good stuff. It's just nature of the beast, man. You got to do what you got to do. It just needs to get water from A to B, and it's cold water on top of that, so I don't even have to worry about it being, in a hot water side, which PVC would be fine with 180 degree water, at least it should. So I have a few things to do, but the seats took a little while, and I got a little sidetracked here. As I said, started tinkering around with this stuff, and I took this off, put that on, took this off, put, stuff that nobody needs to watch. So it's kind of like dragged on into the early evening here, so I'm going to call it a day, and we will come back and play with this motor stuff tomorrow. See ya. I missed it. All right, let's pause right here. That is not supposed to. No, let's do this. Is this bad boy? No. 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 Where the hell did I do it? Now we'll go into something else. That wasn't good. We'll have to supplement this in somewhere. Do that again. So, yeah. That should be good enough. We finished up outside. And, yeah. It was just a dumbass move. And we're back! Oh, I'm recording. Hell. Staring off into space.